And we went back and we looked at the salad and we realized it's just a baby caterpillar.
They rebranded the maggot
I was like,
a baby caterpillar.
Okay, so you called me back just to tell me like, you're wrong. You should have eaten the food because you should be able to eat baby caterpillars.
It's just a cute little baby caterpillar.
It's just a baby caterpillar.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Culture Edit. Unique perspectives into the personal and professional lives of individuals at the helm of successful business, athletics, art, and design. Welcome to the Culture Edit. It is Monday morning. We are recording because we were supposed to record yesterday, but we have quite the story for the listeners as to why we didn't.
Yeah, we had an eventful Sunday for sure.
Yes, so Chad and Nikki Strickland here.
Wow,
I say
remembering
that
to introduce ourselves.
I
That's
say
good.
that because, again, I'm trying to remember that not everyone knows us personally.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing about this whole podcast. Like, so we realized this week it's going to be 1 year since we did our first episode.
Happy 1 year anniversary.
Yeah, happy 1 year.
Happy birthday, Culture Edit.
Exactly.
Podcast.
It's pretty exciting. But what we forget, or I guess, and I'm sure everyone kind of goes through this, but you just assume that it's all your friends listening because they're the ones who kind of started listening like first.
Yeah.
But then we go out to random places and we realize there's actually quite a lot of people that we don't know personally that are listening. So thank you for that. But I want to try and introduce ourselves more. Just
A lot more
Yeah.
people that we don't know listen than people that we know.
Yeah, which we really appreciate, and we love getting feedback. And we love when people come say hi if you're in the neighborhood or on a bike or on a run. It's really great.
In the neighborhood, so you're inviting people just to drop by, like ring the doorbell?
Like our house?
I don't know.
People
You
don't
said
know.
if you're in the neighborhood.
No, I mean like when we're out to dinner, we've had people come up and say hi before.
I thought you meant like the drop by. Well, I was just thinking of this comedy skit I saw the other day where he was talking about the drop by used to be something people would look forward to, like the doorbell rang. Everyone was like, "Ooh, who's here? This is exciting!"
Yeah.
Like, because it used to be a pretty common thing, and it even goes to what we experienced yesterday. The story you're going to tell, because you rang someone's doorbell, but now when someone rings your doorbell, it's like you're like
I think I'm gonna
you're
get
like
shot.
angry. You're like, who's here?
I feel like I'm
And
gonna
then you
get
like sneak around to make sure that they don't know that you're in the house.
Well, that's
and like
out of
hide
fear
from it. It's like it's
fear for
completely
my
flipped.
life.
It's completely flipped around though.
I think if you were to go out to like I think about like Park City.
You think people just knock on each other's door there?
I think that
The
I think like a neighbor. Yeah, I think there's like a drop by.
No.
Or even like think about Steamboat.
But I think like now people are like, well, text me when you're here, or you feel like you have to call.
Yeah.
Whereas before you would just literally drop by your friend's house, like they wouldn't know you were coming.
Yeah.
Now that's
Was
not.
there ever any like awkward encounters from that?
Not that I remember.
Because for me, like when I'm walking around the house, I don't necessarily always like if it's early in the morning, I don't have makeup on, my hair's not done, I'm walking around in night clothes, like so I'm not ready for the drop by yet.
I think culturally people were ready for the drop by. And that's what I'm saying is like now it doesn't happen. So now you're not ready for it.
So everyone's homes would be much more organized and
Yes.
clean if we knew that there was a drop by like at any moment.
Yeah.
given moment.
You'd be dressed up and ready for a drop by at any moment.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. I'm not really sure where we were going with that, but I will we'll kick this story time off with why we didn't record the podcast yesterday like we were supposed to. And that is because we were on our Speedclub Sunday bike ride, which ended up being really fun. It was a Father's Day edition, so we made it a little bit earlier because it's been brutally hot in Atlanta, like unusually hot. And so we made it a little earlier, started at 8 o'clock from the office, which seems late to the people in Miami.
Yeah, they just laughed.
They
because you
just
said
giggled.
early and said 8 o'clock.
Which I think we could even push earlier because I felt like 7 a.m. would have been the perfect time. But it was 40-mile like a really good loop down south that we do by ourselves usually. But
It's our top secret 40-mile loop that we do. Like people see us doing it on Strava, but they don't. No one's ever really done it other than us and Michael.
Yeah, so we had about 30 people show up to the office, start the group ride. We're going. It's amazing. Chill pace, Father's Day pace.
How many people did you say?
I think it was like 30.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good crowd.
But so we're having a good day and everyone's like, yo, I haven't done this route before. This is amazing. It's pretty safe because it's not. We kind of weave our way down south through neighborhoods, so there's not a lot of traffic. But we get about 9 or 10 miles from home on the route, and we crest over this hill, and we're going through a neighborhood that it's not like a bad neighborhood by any means, but it's in Forest Park, and
it's, I think, technically in between Forest Park and Thomasville Heights.
Yeah, so it's kind of just like a residential, but like an older residential neighborhood that the houses, they've just been there a long time. But there's always a lot of people like out and about. It's not deserted.
Yeah.
And so we crest this hill going through this neighborhood. And the neighborhood traditionally does have a lot of stray dogs running around because I've been chased by them. So
we'd already had 3 flats, by the way.
Yeah, and we'd already had 3 flats, but that has nothing to do with the story. But so all of a sudden there's this like cute little dog walking towards us in the middle of the road with his leash just dragging on the ground. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of like, that's like, we see, dogs, but if it's a neighborhood dog, like just an off-leash dog, they one, they wouldn't have their leash dragging behind them, but 2, you can kind of get a sense like they're really confident, like they know where they're going. And so you see that dog and you're not going to stop and like try and pet the dog. Might most likely bite you. And so, but this was different. And so we rolled up, I like slowly rolled up to him, like cautiously waiting
because he was in the middle of the road too.
He was in the middle of the road, and he didn't seem like he knew where he was going.
No.
And so
he was excited to see humans.
He was excited to see humans. It was really small beagle, which also doesn't typically tend to be the type of dogs that we see roaming in the neighborhoods. And so I pull over, and he comes straight up to me, and he's like thirsty, so I give him water, and he has a huge like gash on his head. So I'm like, oh no, he's been hit by a car or something. We've come to the conclusion that we don't feel like he got hit by a car. We feel like someone drove through the neighborhood and threw him out of the car.
Yeah.
So I walked about a quarter of a mile holding my bike and this dog back to the neighborhood. Chad and Alan were there, and I was like, well, I guess we'll go knock on some doors to see if anyone knows who this dog is, because it's not a huge neighborhood. So I go to the first house, and I ring the doorbell and kind of step back because I'm like, I don't want to get shot. No one comes to the door. Then I like stand there a little bit longer. I hear some rustling. And this guy opens the inside door, but still has like the cage door shut.
Yeah.
And he was like, what do you want? And I was like, hi. I'm like in full bike kit. Like this is not a normal like encounter.
No.
And I was just like, hi, do you recognize this dog? And he was like, no. And just like slams the door. I was like, okay. So we went across the street to some construction workers, and we're like, have you seen this dog in the neighborhood before? And they're like, no, but people dump dogs here all the time.
Yeah, they said they've been working there for several weeks, and they've seen people just pull over and drop dogs in the neighborhood.
And then like leave.
Drive off.
So it's not the best. It's not the best place in Atlanta. But I was just like, well, we can't leave this dog. He's injured and he's really sweet. So I called Uber whatever.
Uber for pets.
Yeah, and this amazing woman came and picked us up. I put my bike in the back and the dog, and she took us home. So nothing was open yesterday, so I got to go to Lifeline today and get his see if there's a microchip. We went back and posted flyers throughout the whole neighborhood to try and find his owner. He's super sweet. Well-trained, potty-trained, like...
Yeah, he's house-trained.
Will walk next to you off-leash. Like, he doesn't wander. He listens. I mean, we don't know his name, but if you, like, whistle at him...
we've given him a lot of different names.
We've given him a lot of different names and hopes that one sticks. But, I mean, he's definitely, like... And he wants to sit in your lap. Like, everywhere you go, he wants you to pick him up and hold him, which he's 30 pounds, so he's not light.
Yeah.
Or he wants to sit in your lap.
That's a good quality for a dog looking for a home, to be a lap dog.
Oh, he is... like, I hope we find the owners, because I do feel like... Someone really loved this dog. Now, my fear is that either someone stole the dog and then realized he was a beagle, so he likes to bark, and then dumped him, or like maybe they had, it was their parents' dog and their parent.
And he appears to be a special kind of beagle that we've researched.
Blue tick beagle.
Yeah.
So he has speckles like all over his legs.
Yeah. And he looks like he's full blood. Like he's not a mix.
And he's kind of chunky. So he's like, he could probably lose like 5 to 10 pounds.
Yeah. Do we want to go through the different naming scenarios so far? Because I think that's interesting that we keep trying to naming. But
well, first I started out with Forest because we found him in Forest Park, but you didn't like
it. It doesn't match his personality.
Okay, so that's off the table. Then we said, what about Little Jerry? Because we had just watched the Seinfeld episode where Kramer names his rooster Little Jerry Seinfeld.
Right.
That kind of stuck a little bit.
But I want to name him Little Michael Garrison.
But then you were like, Little Michael Garrett. And I was like, that's weird.
But then we thought because Alan was with us, we'd call him Alan. Call the dog Alan.
This is our beagle, Alan.
I like that. And then when Alan's around, it'll be Alan and Alan.
But and then we said, well, what if we call him Little Goose after Quentin, just for no reason? Because Goose kind of sounds like a dog name.
Well, we're going to make Goose adopt him.
And yeah, we want to make Goose adopt him. Yeah, nothing.
And then Buddy. Buddy is something that comes pretty naturally because he is kind of a little buddy.
Yeah, he is. He's really cute. So I'm not sure what we're going to call him.
Oh, and now it's Dobby. As of last night, it was Dobby.
Because he has the floppy ears.
Yeah.
He's
like
really
Dobby
cute.
From Harry Potter.
Yeah. So the names are still out there. Not quite sure.
Submit your name, inquiries, and request, and maybe one will stick. If we use your name for the dog, then we'll give you a Culture Edit hat. One thing I think we should mention is that this has introduced us into a pretty broken process for finding stray dogs. And
so Lifeline, Fulton County Animal Services / Lifeline, people have probably seen like all of the publicity around them getting a ton of money and the new shelter and all these things. So I'm thinking like, okay, they've got a pretty robust program built out, so I should be able to just call and like figure out what to do with this dog, because everyone's like, well, you need to get him scanned for a microchip. I'm going to do that. But he's injured. And so I called Blue Pearl and I'm like, do you have like a rescue program? Like, I found this dog where you like can just check him over real quick and not. But it's really confusing. Like, you can't quite figure out, because they have like a veterinary side of things. But then when I went to book an appointment, it said there was no appointments for the next 3 months. So like, how does that work if you find a dog that's injured?
Yeah, there should just be an option like, if you have found a stray dog, here's what you do.
Well, there is, but there's a whole section on it.
Okay.
It says if you found a dog, keep it for 48 hours.
Keep it for 48 hours.
Correct.
Okay.
Put posters, and they have like a template where you can like drop the dog's picture in and print it out. But we already did that. Get it scanned for a microchip. Gonna do that today.
But they don't tell how to do that.
Well, yeah, you can go anywhere. You can go to any vet and they'll scan it for free for a microchip. I just didn't want to drive all the way to Blue Pearl yesterday because all the vets are closed. Except for the 24-hour ones.
So like Common Companion would just scan it for free?
Yeah, so I could walk up there and just get it scanned. But I figure if I'm going to go to... But he's injured, so he needs medical care.
Right.
And so my thinking was, well, we'll just do all of this at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Because whether we find his owner or not, like, he still needs medical care.
Yeah, he's sore.
Yeah, he's super sore. Like, something happened to him, and the gash in his head. I mean, I've been treating it with like Neosporin, and like
it's looking better.
Cleaned it last night.
You washed him.
Gave him a bath. Yeah, but he's hurt.
So that was a full Sunday of bike riding and dog saving.
Yeah, but my point is, it's really frustrating that I can't get a hold of one normal person, not even like a dispatch person at Lifeline. And so then it's like, keep the dog for 48 hours, do all these things. Basically, like, don't bring the dog here. We don't want him. You deal with it unless you absolutely can't deal with it. Huh. And then it's like, do a 5-day hold, post on all these websites. So I've posted on like 4 Facebook groups. I post on petfbi.com, and you like give like the location you found them, the type of dog, all that. And then like, it's supposed to be if someone else goes on there, says they lost that type of dog, it alerts you.
I think it's interesting that they're counting on just people to be nice is like their primary strategy.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that we live in a place where this is such an issue. Whereas like you said you talked to Lizzie and they like never see stray dogs.
Oh yeah. People had commented on my Instagram post like, oh my God, it's so cute. And then like Lizzie from Miami commented or responded and was like, oh, like, I hope, that's so cute. I hope you find a home. And I was like, yeah, I bet you don't see a lot of stray dogs on the way to Robert's fruit stand. And it's so true. Like when we tell people
we've rescued a lot of dogs.
We've rescued like 4 or 5 dogs riding bikes because you just see stray dogs everywhere. And again, most of the time they're not friendly, so you can't do much about it. But on the occasion, there's some friendly ones, and I
rescued those 2 dome golden retrievers in Buckhead.
Yeah.
Me and Kevin Spicer did.
They weren't really strays. They were just
they were just escape artists.
They were dogs that live in a bazillion-dollar mansion, and they just walked out of their front yard.
Yeah.
We've saved a lot of abandoned. Like Stinky was abandoned. Someone just left him in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. So enough of that. I'll keep you posted on what happens with the dog.
Alan.
Little baby Alan. The dog is so cute.
He is.
But I'm scared to let him go near Emmy until I get him to the vet, because I don't know, like, is he vaccinated? Does he like have like worms?
They just look at each other through the crate.
It's sad. Emmy's like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it.
One thing I want to do is thank everyone for the feedback from last week's episode with Bame Joyner of Atlanta Influences Everything. If you haven't listened to that episode, definitely go do that. It's been extremely popular, and thanks, Bame, for doing that again. I know you're listening, and and promoting it. That's been really, really cool to see. And we've had actually quite a few people that are interested in talking to Bame. They want to be introduced to him. Maybe there might be some other kind of brand business opportunities that are coming up. And we've been talking about doing a collaboration too, possibly. So keep an eye out for that, but we'll keep you in the loop. One thing we've wanted to talk about the last few weeks, but we've had guests, is something that's been on our radar quite a bit, and that's the rise of Substack this year. And we've been experimenting with Substack. And for those of you that don't know, Substack is a platform.
It's basically just like a paid blogging platform.
Yeah, it started as a blogging platform, and now it's a MailChimp type blogging platform that's evolved into an app where people can interact with each other. But the reason we're watching it and experimenting with it is because we're seeing a lot of traction in Substack when it comes to newsletters, media, and journalism, because traditional journalism is all of the media outlets are pretty much failing. And so what we're seeing are really interesting journalists that are going to Substack and creating really a community.
Well, I think it's interesting because it kind of harkens back to like the original essence of journalism, which is to actually report on something and report it with the facts and do your research. And obviously there's some opinions. There's an opinion aspect to that as well.
Yeah.
But when I think about how like newspapers used to be, it was like a newspaper with the news, but then there was columns. And so you had these like specialized columns, whether it was like a fashion column. Like I think of Carrie Bradshaw. She was always like in Sex and the City, always writing a column. Like she had a sex, fashion, whatever column in the magazine or newspaper or whatever it was. And that was like her expertise. And so she just every week was like, she was the columnist. And I know that still exists, like obviously like in GQ and all of those things. But I think Substack is just saying, hey, we're now like a column, quote unquote, column platform, meaning like if you're an expert in fashion, if you're an expert in politics, if you're an expert in this, you can now have your own column, and that is accessible to anyone on this platform.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's good that that they're making some things paid, because I mean, these people have to make money. They're already not getting paid by media outlets, and so I think it's a really great way for, if you're a great writer, you can actually make a living on this platform. I saw it was like there was like a thing that like trying to get me to like create a Substack, and it was like estimating like you can make $10,000 a month if you get this many subscribers and they pay this amount.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of showing you like, oh, there's a way to make a side hustle here, or even a full-time hustle.
I think a lot of these journalists, it's their full-time hustle.
Yeah, and so I think it's great. It's like kind of going back to old school journalism, because there's no editor telling you you can't do this, or you have to do this, or you have to say that.
Yeah.
It's like Wild West, but it also like in a new way, because it's so much more accessible to anyone.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we've noticed the rise in newsletters over the last few years. They get a tremendous amount of traction if you can find the right audience for your newsletter. Our newsletter gets a lot of traction. Our newsletter, I was looking at last night, it's like 87% open rate, which is like incredible. Mm-hmm. But it's because our readers and our listeners are interested in the same stuff that we're putting in the newsletter. And so you're finding the same thing on Substack, just at a much bigger scale. So you've got these journalists and cultural kind of influencers building these audiences, and that's how they're making money on it. I mean, it can be anywhere from like $5 a month to $150 for the year. I think I've seen a lot of different ones. Do you want to talk about some of the ones that we've subscribed to and that we're watching? I think Feed Me from Emily Sundberg is one that's really interesting. She was a writer at The Cut, I believe. Hers is very New York focused, but when you think about someone that's built an audience, it's been interesting to watch her do that. One of our friends, acquaintances, Jason Stewart, Them Jeans, he has one, but he's not very consistent with it. But I think most notable, Allison Roman, who we know. Newsletter. Yeah, a newsletter, Allison Roman. I guess what was she at? Bon Appetit?
Yeah, she's at Bon Appetit, and then she got canceled. I can't remember why.
Yeah. So she's gone out, created a YouTube channel, and now Substack that I think is extremely successful. She's got her own podcast too.
Yeah, those are the only ones I subscribe to. I subscribe to like a bunch of free ones, mainly around fashion.
Yeah, and the free ones, what's interesting is you're seeing brands start to wake up to this, and they're creating Substack, or they have someone on their staff creating a Substack. And I think you're going to see more of that, because the brands, in terms of like cultural influence, like that's a perfect way for them to connect with their audience.
Yeah, because you can like chat back and forth with the editor as well, if they want, if they want to.
Exactly. A chat feature, or there'll be like a question of the week. But the ones that are successful I've seen are very consistent.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think you have to be.
Yeah, you got to be consistent.
Yeah, it's interesting to see all these platforms evolve from a culture hiring perspective. I think about how difficult it's going to be for these media outlets or magazines or newspapers to hire journalists anymore. Yeah. Because why would you go work for, a newspaper or a magazine or anything like that typically like those like publications are known for having pretty terrible cultures because they're like old school and the editor-in-chief is like mean and whatever. Like those people are in trouble. Like those publications are in trouble. Huge trouble.
I mean, that's why they're all failing.
Yeah.
I mean, Washington Post is in complete turmoil right now. And they're owned by Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
So, what if a large employer had a Substack that just was focused on what's it like to work here, where someone was internally responsible for writing these stories about, imagine like if Google had a Substack.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that would be really cool. I mean, Trader, what I think about is like Trader Joe's tried to kind of do that with their podcast. It's obviously different than Substack.
Yeah.
But during the pandemic, you remember they launched an internal podcast that was also external facing, all about like the behind the scenes of how Trader Joe's works.
It was awesome.
And it was so good. I mean, it was like amazing. I don't know if they do it anymore, but
I don't think so.
If you could do something like that with Substack, where it's more of like, it's just the ins and outs, like the culture, what it's like to work here. But
yeah, it's also, you've got to be very, like if you're committed to doing something like that, you've got to be very nimble.
Yeah, it can't be like 7 layers of approval
right.
And
And I think that's where a lot of organizations miss. But what a huge opportunity to do an employer brand in a really unique way and build an audience and a bench of people that think this is a great place to work and I want to work there one day.
Or imagine if you're a CEO and you have your own Substack. And so it's like office of the CEO and you write once a week and you open it up to interactions or people ask questions.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a huge talent attraction tool.
Huge.
And obviously as a CEO, you're very busy. So maybe you have someone help you like keep the content consistent, but
definitely. But a lot of, all these large organizations have internal comms teams.
Yeah.
That's interesting. We should, let's think about that.
Yeah. So we'll keep you posted on like any, popping up on our radar that are really good. There's definitely some good recipe ones. Like I follow a few different ones that have just tons of recipes because I like that.
We were talking the other day about how we've noticed, and it started at the conference we were at, the new obsession with Gen Z. Like in terms of like media and also employer.
So I
like how everyone was obsessed with millennials.
Oh yeah.
Like
this is what I've been
10 years ago and now it's Gen Z.
I have literally been saying this for years. Every generation likes to poo-poo the youngest generation. Every single generation's like, oh, they're entitled little brats in the workforce. All it is every generation first coming in the workforce is just immature. You're just immature. You're young.
Yep.
So yeah, you have people that are still living with their parents or still relying on their parents for advice, or, they ask their parents to, help them with the prepping for the job interview, or when they get the job, they, but that's just immaturity. That's literally and so sure, if you go back to like the Great Depression where people relying on their parents, no, but like, this is a different world now.
But if you go on any media outlet right now, like if we pulled up New York Times right now, there's going to be a Gen Z article.
But that's how it was with millennials.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's here now. Like
they were
the Gen Z obsession is here, and like that's all you're going to see for, I'd say, the next 5 years.
Gen X and Boomers were obsessed with saying how big of losers millennials were.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, this generation is going to destroy our world and bring down the planet, and like, no.
Yeah.
And so I feel the same way about Gen Z. Like, are they immature? Yeah, but they're like 20. Gen Alpha, that's the one that messes with my head, because Gen Alpha has been through they've been through a pandemic in some of the most formative years of their lives, and they've literally been glued to their phones since they were born.
Yeah.
It's the only like Gen Z. Because I think of like Caitlin and Ava as Gen Z, but they still didn't have like social media as like a little kid.
Yeah.
Gen Alpha, like that's all they know. And so I was watching this TikTok where it was like a mom who's a millennial. And this blows my mind. The mom is a millennial, which I don't think of myself as old, but now we are old. because we have like kids that are grown. And then her daughter, who's Gen Alpha, and she was like 12 or something. They do this like segment where the daughter, who's Gen Alpha, says a word that's like used in Gen Alpha.
Yeah.
And the mom tries to figure out what it means. And so it's like the whole thing about like there's this new like linguistics within the Gen Alpha that they just like use words that don't even like mean what they are supposed to mean. But it's just kind of interesting because I think a lot of that is driven from like internet slang culture.
Yeah, Gen Alpha, by the way, is people born 2010 to 2024. Yeah. Yeah. So pretty well, I guess. Yeah, it could be 14-year-old.
Yeah.
That's crazy,
isn't it? Yeah. So
someone born in 2010 is 14 years old.
Yeah.
Oh God, what happened?
But think about, even in 4 years, they're going to be in college. They're going to be they're in a couple of years, they're going to be in the workforce.
Yeah.
It's going and so you'll have boomers in 2 years. So let's say 2 years when the kid's 16, when you can like legally work. So you can have a boomer, you could have a Gen X, millennial, Gen Z. So you have 5 generations in the workforce at the same time.
Yeah. If you're in politics, you could have 6. Silent generation.
That's true.
Octogenarians.
Yeah, that's true.
Hardest job in America, 80 years old.
It's kind of wild.
Well, it's here, and we're going to see nothing but Gen Z stories for the next 5 years. So everyone, and it's a media obsession, but also it's like just being at the conference, it made me realize, okay, we've got a whole new, like we talked about software and systems and platforms. It's all going to be, how do you use these to meet the expectations of Gen Z?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here we go.
I think what's going to be really interesting is when Gen Alpha goes into the workforce, they're going to be so used to using AI and like predict it. Like they're so well trained at how to use technology. I think it's going to force a lot of older generations out of the workforce. Like there's not going to be an option anymore, because
definitely,
if you are Gen X or you're a boomer and you still can't use your smartphone, and then these kids come in and they're like literally just pumping out work because they know how to use AI. They know how to use all of these different like software tools to save time, be a lot more productive.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in trouble. Like,
yeah,
you're going to get pushed out.
What's interesting though is on the other flip side of that, we see Gallup's Global Insights report just came out last week. And one of the big takeaways is how lonely workers are at the global level, and also at the U.S. Level, because of the influence of technology and obviously working from home and everything else. That's going to be the part, like, I think you're going to have like individuals that have a heightened skill set when it comes to technology, but a very low EQ. And so I think you're going to have workers that fall into one or two camps.
Yeah.
If someone can have a high skill set on the technology side and high emotional intelligence and can talk to people and develop relationships, they've got a really bright future. But I think that's going to be not a lot of people.
I think what I've noticed is that the Gen Alpha and even some Gen Z, they're so desensitized to like personal connection because it's all like behind the computer or behind an app or behind a phone.
Yeah.
That they're kind of mean. They're like really mean. Like I see like all these like TikTok and Instagrams of like these little girls that are like, they're like rating each other on TikTok. Like they're like talking it, like it's like Mean Girls, but like on steroids.
Yeah.
And they're like really like unemotional and just super, super mean and like bullying.
Because they never have to interact in person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They never have to like confront someone face to face. Because even like school, a lot of people are still doing like homeschool, or they're just like partially online or whatever. Or they don't actually say anything to each other's faces. They just get online, and which that's been happening forever.
Yeah.
But I am interested to see if people will be a lot less empathetic once they get in the workforce. And so I could see that causing a lot of issues if people are just like not empathetic. They're really mean. They've never been told like, you know, don't hurt people's feelings like that. Don't be a bully, because because when you go on social media, all you see in the comments is people bullying.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we have a lot coming up this summer. Actually, our next episode will be coming to you from California.
Yeah.
So we've got some work out in California, but and then we're going to come back. We've got an event.
The 26th.
The 26th at night, we come back.
With the Perlant, which is a private wine membership club that we have joined.
Yeah. We're really excited about our friends at the Perlant, which we have now talked to, and we're going to have our own event with them on July 26th.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. July 26th. So more on that to come. but it's basically our taste of the tour event that we do every year with friends and clients. Where
this one's going to be more intimate, though.
Yeah, in our studio, and it's wine tasting that's associated with the actual route of the Tour de France. We got the Tour de France coming up. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and the Olympics at the end, right after the Tour de France is over.
We haven't even talked about the Netflix, the Netflix Tour de France documentary. Season 2 is out and Unchained. And you nor I have any desire to watch it. It's really weird.
I didn't really think the first season was that great.
Yeah, I know.
What we talked about last year is that it's really good and interesting for people that aren't cyclists because I think just like Drive to Survive, like we're not big Formula One people, but we find it interesting because they teach you about the people who are actually driving the cars and their personalities and the drama and all that. I think it's the same thing with the Tour de France. Like the things to us, it's like very obvious, the things that they're talking about and showcasing.
And we watched every stage of the tour.
And we watched the actual tour. But I think if you're not a cyclist or you don't have as much knowledge around cycling, I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that is the conclusion we came to last year. I'm going to try to watch it. A lot of people were talking about it on the ride yesterday, so we'll see. House of Dragon came out last night. We watched that. I was pretty disappointed.
I wasn't really disappointed. I didn't have really
not a lot happened.
Yeah, I think they're just setting up for a lot. Yeah,
we need like a graph explaining.
Well, that's the problem with all of these shows that take so long in between seasons is then I can't remember what happened, and so I'm like I'm completely lost.
Right.
And they kind of do a recap, but even the recap is confusing.
Especially how the names are so familiar.
Yeah. So, but it was. I mean, I'm still going to continue to watch it because I think it'll get better. It always does. And then I'm running the Peachtree on July 4th. So if anyone else listening is running it, let me know. We can try and meet up. That'll be really fun.
Yeah, you've been training for that again. So that'll be a fun day, and then we're going to head up to the mountains after that.
Mm-hmm. And we'll have some Speedclub rides up in the mountains.
Well, yeah, we're going to have a Speedclub ride on July 6th, Saturday, July 6th.
And possibly Sunday, too.
I think we have to pick a day.
Well, I think I was going to do 1 day gravel, 1 day road.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's like options.
Okay. So check your email for that. Sign up. Make sure you sign up for our Speedclub Media newsletter if you're interested in those rides. But so a lot of events coming up. More on that. Stay tuned. The last thing, do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about Fredy?
I mean, I don't want to be negative, but I will share my experience.
We lost a good one last week.
So
we lost a good restaurant.
If you live in the neighborhood, you know that Fredy is kind of a staple in the neighborhood. Now, I will say that I also believe if you live in the neighborhood, you have noticed that Fredy's probably not a great place to work.
Yeah.
And the only reason you go there is because the food is somewhat... they just don't change the menu.
And that's because the staff tells you.
Yeah. And
it's not a great place to work.
Yeah, the staff, pretty much every server we always have says, like, I don't like working here. So we've always known that it's not necessarily a great place to work. But a couple weekends ago, we went for our usual Saturday. I ordered a salad, Aperol Spritz, and the salad came out, looked terrible.
Yeah.
And I was about to send it back, and I was like kind of pushing the lettuce around, and I found a grub. No, not a grub. A maggot. Alive in the salad. And so...
Because a grub is like a big thing.
Yeah, no, it's like a little maggot.
Yeah.
And so...
A larva of a fly.
Yes. And so I call the waiter back over. He's horrified. He takes it in the back. Disappears for like a long time.
Yeah. They were trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah. And then the manager comes out. He basically was like, oh, sorry, it happens. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I've worked in a lot of restaurants. Like, yes, do bugs occasionally get into like lettuce? Like if you have organic lettuce, like a grasshopper or like a little like fly, like a gnat or something. Sure. I mean, then I go like think like, okay, would this happen in like a really nice restaurant? No, that doesn't happen in a really nice restaurant.
No.
And so I get that things happen, but this goes back to the way you handle the situation is everything.
The standards you have in the kitchen.
And so I said, well, are you going to go back and talk to your staff about, because, you know, the cleanliness of the line and all this. Oh, yeah, sure, whatever. And he just like basically brushes it off like, you people are crazy, like deal with it. And so we were at that point so grossed out that we're just like, can you just we hadn't even like eaten our food, obviously. And so we'd ordered 2 Aperol Spritz that we hadn't drank because we had been there for maybe 10 minutes at that point, 15 minutes.
Yeah, I took a bite of a sandwich.
Yeah,
I couldn't eat any more of it.
You were grossed out, so we just like if you're not going to take this serious, then that means the kitchen isn't like really, like who knows what's in that kitchen. He's like, sure, goes away. The server comes back with the bill still.
Yeah. He was horrified.
The server was terrified to bring us this bill because you would think if there's bugs in your food, they're like, you know what? Don't even pay for anything. Here's a gift card. We're so sorry. Like that's like a standard process.
Yeah.
Or just like, don't worry about it. Don't pay for anything. Like
don't tell anyone.
Let us bring you another Aperol Spritz. Like just hang out. Like whatever.
Right.
But none of that happened.
Let us do whatever it takes to make this up to you.
Exactly.
Especially someone who goes there at least once a week.
Every week.
Yeah.
So the manager was just super rude and didn't care. And so the server was even like, you could just get up and walk out. I won't say anything.
Yeah.
But we're like, no, we're not going to walk out on a bill. So they charged us for the Aperol Spritz that we didn't drink. And we paid for it even though we didn't drink it, and we left. Now, what this manager didn't realize is that we know the other manager. So I immediately text him.
Well, there was the assistant manager that was working.
Correct.
We know the manager.
The manager.
Yeah.
So I text him. I tell him what happened. He's horrified. He calls the owner, who we also know the owner. The owner calls me. Think about all the things that have just happened between literally in a 30-minute, maybe an hour time period.
Yeah.
Because the assistant manager literally just didn't do his job.
All he had to do was do the right thing.
Exactly. All he had to do was do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that speaks so much to the culture of that place.
Yeah.
And, I don't typically like dragging places through the mud because I do think things happen. Like you have to, but I am very disappointed in, even though like the owner called and apologized, but there still wasn't a whole lot of he didn't even end up refunding. Like,
he said he was going to. He said, I'm going to refund it. Come in. I'll make it up to you.
Well, he put it on us.
Yeah. When you come in, let me know, and I'll make it up to you.
Yeah.
I'll definitely refund it, which they haven't.
No.
But then, which I thought was fine. I thought, and he was horrified and said, the assistant manager absolutely should have never given you a bill, and we should have done everything we could. We should have given you a gift card, blah, blah, blah. But then he called you back like 5 minutes later.
Yeah, but then he called me back and he's like, oh, I talked to Michael or whatever his name was, the assistant manager, and we went back and we looked at the salad and we realized it's just a baby caterpillar.
They rebranded the maggot
I was like,
a baby caterpillar.
Okay, so you called me back just to tell me like, you're wrong. You should have eaten the food because you should be able to eat baby caterpillars.
It's just cute little baby
it's just a baby caterpillar. Yeah. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, wait. So you went you ran diagnostics on the insect to find out.
They did DNA
testing to find the difference between a larva that's crawling and a baby caterpillar larva that's like.
Yeah, you're like, all right, we're done here.
I was like, oh, okay,
we're done.
Whatever. Like I'm never coming back.
Yeah, we're done forever. Mickey's favorite place is gone up in a nuclear detonation.
It's just ridiculous. And you know what I really don't like is I don't like when someone apologizes but then puts the next steps on you. So like he's like, "Oh, we're so sorry, but if you want to come in, then you text me and then I'll figure something out to make it up to you." Like who's going to do that? Like maybe some people okay, I take that back. There are definitely people out there that would go in and text him and be like, "Hey, I'm here. Come on, comp my whole meal." Like, but that's not that's not our personality.
Yeah.
He could have been proactive and said, "Oh my gosh, I'm horrified. I know you're in the neighborhood. I'm going to email you a gift card. I literally have your phone number. I'm going to text you a gift card. I'm going to send whatever. I'm going to actually refund the bill."
He said that like 10 times. He never did.
Yeah. So not only did he not proactively do anything, but he just puts it back on us like, "Oh, next time you're in, give me a call and I'll possibly help in some way." Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it was not handled right.
So
the whole way around.
We're running out of places in the neighborhood to go to.
Thank God we got Del Bar.
Yeah, Del Bar. Don't let me down.
But what's sad is that we've talked to people in the neighborhood about this and no one has been surprised.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
Well, apparently the reputation is like really bad, which we didn't know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we kind of knew, but we looked the other way.
Well,
we turned a blind eye.
Yeah.
Because of the vibe.
Yeah, because it has a patio. It has a patio, and it's like it is a nice like vibe. And I do like the pizza, and we've gotten plenty of like great meals there. This is the first time we've ever had this issue, but that's why I kept saying to the assistant manager, like, we've been going here for years and this has never been like, we've never gotten like spoiled food or anything like that.
No.
I was like, so there's something happening back there where someone's taking their eye off the ball.
It's leadership.
And maggots don't live on lettuce. Like, they live in rotting food. So that was what worried me, is I was like, okay, so is this in the salad dressing? Like, has the salad dressing gone bad? Because I didn't want to eat it. It looked so gross.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But it was just, the lack of caring that makes me be like, well, unless I know that assistant manager is fired, I definitely couldn't go back there.
Rest in peace, Fredy. Time of death.
It's kind of sad. I'm actually really sad about it.
2 p.m.
July? What are you talking about?
Oh, sorry, June 11th.
I am really sad.
I know. Is your favorite place? It's the place whenever I'd say, where do we want to go? And I know Fredy's coming right out of your mouth. So
well, and like, I would still want to get an Aperol Spritz there and like sit on the patio, but I don't want to contribute to that assistant manager's paycheck. That's like,
he may not be there anymore.
I hope if I text the other manager and say, is he still there? And he says no, then I'll go get an Aperol Spritz.
Okay.
But I don't know the food.
You don't know if you'll ever eat there again.
It's a kitchen culture, man.
Yeah.
I've worked in a lot of restaurants, and I can tell you one thing: I've never seen a maggot in the food of any of those restaurants.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a pretty big problem.
Yep.
So.
Okay, everyone. So thanks for listening.
Yeah. One last thing, because I want to just spurt off like the randomness that comes to my brain. So throughout the week, Chad and I, so people always ask what our process is for like the podcast. And so to give you insight into it, and we've had a lot of questions about it recently because we've had other friends that are interested in creating their own podcast, which I think is amazing. And we are always here to help and give advice or give like, best practice, that like things we've learned. The number one thing is people ask how many times it takes to record an episode. And when it's just the two of us, it's one time.
One.
Now, we're not doing video. I can see if video is incorporated, it might be a little more difficult, but we don't do multiple takes. We're riffing.
Yep.
But we do have a list. So we have a list of things. We have a shared document, like phone, like notes.
Apple Note.
And throughout the week, we put different things on it. And then we talk about it before the podcast and kind of have our flow. And then, so that's how that works. But what's funny is, and this is like so my ADHD speaking, but I'll put the most random things on there.
And she doesn't remember.
And I don't remember what it was or why I put it on there.
Can I read some of those?
Sure, you can read it.
There's a random note on here. Depression is cured by watching a show about different animals becoming friends. That's it. That's the whole note.
That's the note. But I did remember what that one was. I was so we don't have cable, but we have like all the other things. But on Samsung TV, they'll have like random shows that pop up. And so I think it was like when you were out of town and this random show popped up about different animals becoming best friends, like unlikely friendships. And it was like, like a rabbit and like a pig became best friends and the rabbit rides around on like the pig's back, or like something funny like that. Or like a dog and a horse. Species, yes.
Oh, I thought it was like two dogs make friends.
No, two different unlikely species. So a monkey and an elephant, or and so it was this whole show about unlikely friends because
it cured your depression?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
Yeah, it was really nice.
I think you've deleted the other weird ones that you couldn't remember why you wrote them.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll keep those. You know what we should do is we should talk about them whenever we're like, what did that mean? You're like, I don't know. Then we should like talk about it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We should do that. Okay. Well, that's all I had for today. Anything else on your end?
Rate, subscribe, and share.
Yeah, rate, subscribe, and share. Helps us out a lot. And
1 year anniversary. I know we like glossed over that real quick, but especially for the people that have listened to us from the very beginning.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been 1 year to the day.
It's crazy
that we're releasing this.
We were supposed to do a party. It kind of snuck up on us.
I know. Well, we were gonna have. We were supposed to.
But we're out of town so much. It's just hard with work. We've been having a lot of work travel. So we will figure something out.
We had a lot of plans on having a lot of parties and activations. What we have not been able to do because we've been traveling so much. But we will do one. We will do a Culture Edit podcast 1 year plus celebration.
Okay. We'll figure it out. We'll let you know.
But thanks for everyone that's listened for the whole year. Crazy to think.
Yeah. A year of us talking. What a... What a joy. It's been fun. We love it. So here's to more years of the podcast.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
All right.
There's no